Hello everyone! This Friday we will celebrate Jerusalem Day, Yom Yerushalayim. In this day, 53 years ago, we returned to our ancient old city.
Since then, we can see the prophecy of Zechariah comes to reality in front of our eyes. As he said, there shall yet be old men and women sitting in the squares of Jerusalem, each with staff in hand because of their great age. And the streets of the city shall be crowded with boys and girls playing in its squares.
We are happy to bring to you Jerusalem Mayor blessing to our community for this great occasion.
קהילת אוהל לאה, שלום לכם, אתם בהונג קונג ואנחנו כאן בירושלים. ראיתי במקרה את הסרט שלכם של חג החנוכה וראיתי את דגלי ירושלים וארץ ישראל אחד ליד השני ובאמת התרגשתי. ובכלל אני יודע שאתם דואגים לחגוג את כל חגי היהודים ומדינת ישראל ואנחנו קרבים היום ליום ירושלים, אז אני מאחל לכם הרבה בריאות ורק שתמיד תמשיכו לחגוג. חג ירושלים שמח.
Thank you, Mr. Leon, for the warm blessing.
And now, because we cannot visit Jerusalem this year, join us for touring King David's old city and palace.
Bezrat Hashem, we can all do this too together in real life very soon.
Let's go! Happy Jerusalem Day!
Hello there! Welcome to the city of David. Are you also stuck at home? Don't worry! Today, we have a special surprise for you. Today, we're bringing ancient Jerusalem to you, to your home. Would you like to see it? Come with me. Come on, let's go! You see? Like any other place in the world, everything's locked. But don't worry, that's why we're here. Wow, what a view. Jerusalem really does have mountains surrounding it. You know, people sometimes mistake and think they're gonna find the ancient city within the walls of the old city. People expect to go into the old city, walk a few floors down, and find the ancient city. But no, where does Jerusalem start? Here, where we're standing, outside the walls of the city of David, a city that was forgotten and lost in time. And we are now rediscovering it. And the borders of the city are just here below me. One valley to the east, the famous Kidron Valley, and also in the west, the deep Tyropian Valley. Both valleys that meet at a distance of a 5-minute walk from here, not far. A place called the Shiloach Pool. Don't worry, we'll get there. We are standing at one of the highest points in the city, and you could see the ancient city just here behind me. To the east of us, we could see Mount of Olives. And on top of it, you could see the ancient Jewish cemetery. If you look closely underneath the houses, you'll notice these black square holes carved in the mountain. Do you know what they are? Would you like to guess? These are the most ancient Jewish burial grounds in the world from about 3,000 years ago. And to the south of us, we could see the mountain ridge where the British Commissioner's Palace used to be, and today it's where the UN headquarters sit. To the west of us, Mount of Zion and the old city walls. If you'll notice, just behind the walls, you could see the houses of the Jewish quarter. To the north of us, as we said, the Temple Mount, which is built on top of Mount Moriah. Yes, the same Mount Moriah that Abraham came to with his son Isaac. Do you know that 3,000 years ago, the same view we're seeing right now, King David saw? He could get up every morning with his coffee, walk out to the porch, and see this beautiful scenery. Do you want to see where he lived? Let's imagine ourselves as a resident of the city 3,000 years ago that gets a chance to actually go and visit King David's palace. Come, let me show you. It's time to head down into the palace. Come, follow me, let's go. We are now sitting in the palace. In 2005, Dr. Elat Mazar dug here, and she found these massive walls She dated them to 3,000 years ago because of the things she found in between the stones. She said, I found King David's palace. Not everybody agrees with her, but think about it. There are massive walls creating a corner. These walls were very tall. They were created here 3,000 years ago. Who lived here 3,000 years ago? King David. You're still having trouble imagining this as the palace? Well, you could see this beautiful capital stone. This is also an ancient stone that tells us this structure not only was a public building, it was also a royal building. And you know what? Maybe this structure still needs to be dug more to understand it better. But I'd like to share with you something that's not disputable. You know this book, the Bible. According to the Bible, 2,600 years ago, 400 years after King David lived here, there was another king who lived here. He was King David's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson. His name was King Zedekiah. And you know, kings don't live alone in the palace. They have their wives. They have ministers, advisors, servants, butlers, soldiers. I'd like to read one verse from the Bible. Before I read it, I'd like to tell you a short story. During the time of King Zedekiah, there was a prophet here. His name was Jeremiah. And he was prophesying the destruction of the city. The king didn't like what he hears. It's not good for business. He tells 4 of his ministers, take Jeremiah and throw him into a pit. The names of the 4 ministers are mentioned in the first verse in chapter 38 in the book of Jeremiah. Then Shephatiah the son of Matan, and Gedaliah the son of Pashhur, and Yuchal the son of Shelemiah, and Pashhur the son of Malchiah heard the words that Jeremiah had spoken to all the people, saying, and the story continues. Now, why did I just read out these 4 ancient Hebrew names? Because Eilat Mazar, the archaeologist, found where we're sitting this little round thing. This little round thing is called a seal. Its purpose is to close letters. Yes, if you receive letters in ancient time, in order to open it, you have to break the seal. But before you break it, you're probably going to look real close to see who sent the letter, because people back then had rings on their hands and they printed their name on the seal. And if you look closely, you could see Hebrew letters. And what is the name on the seal? Well, one seal has the name Yehuchal, son of Shelemiah. Another seal has the name Gedaliah, son of Pashhur. The exact names we read just now in the Bible are found here, where I'm sitting. Could you believe it? So we visited the king's palace. We know where the ministers went to work. But where did they live? Let me show you. Hey there. So we just came down from the palace into the ancient neighborhood. Even though we came down, we're still on the upper parts of the city. Welcome to Uptown Jerusalem, the place where the ministers lived, where the rich people lived. Take a look here behind me. We could see the remnants of an ancient house from the first temple period. The family living in this house was a very wealthy family. How do we know it? Because of this small room. You see this small room? Could you guess what it was? Well, it wasn't a wine cellar. It wasn't a safe or a vault. It was a bathroom, a private bathroom. Back then, to go do your business, you have to go outside the walls of the city. There is no sewage in the city. This family had their own private bathroom. And if you look closely, right over here in the corner, you can see a square stone with a round hole in it. What is it? It's a toilet. One of the most ancient toilets in the country. Archaeologists dug underneath the toilet and found some residue, pun intended, okay? The last person who sat on this toilet 2,600 years ago sends us a very warm regards. The archaeologists learned from analyzing this bathroom a little bit about the diet of the person who lived here back then. One piece of information was super interesting. Archaeologists found here the remainings of raw meat that wasn't cooked. What is a rich person doing eating raw meat? Well, let's think about it. What's happening here in the city 2,600 years ago? It's being destroyed by the Babylonians. Maybe somebody's hiding in this bathroom. The little amount of meat they managed to salvage for themselves, they couldn't cook, because if they would start a fire, the Babylonians would discover them. Isn't this amazing that we could see the story of Jerusalem's destruction, not only through the layer of ash that archaeologists found here from 2,600 years ago, but also through a little toilet in a private bathroom. You should know that if you come here during the summer, you'll get a chance to see a light show, which is projected on the findings right over here behind me. It's called the Hallelujah Show. It's beautiful. I recommend it. In any case, we've seen the palace above us. We've seen the ancient neighborhood. We've seen even what people ate. But what did they drink? Where did they get their water from? For that, we need to go on a short journey downtown. We're going to leave uptown Jerusalem and head underground for the water tunnels. Let's go. We're heading down now through the luscious pathways of the residential area in the city of David. Like any other resident who would have lived here 3,000 years ago. But the truth is, I'm missing something on my shoulder. A bucket. What you gonna do? They had no faucets back then. To get water, they need to go down to the Gihon spring. That's where we're going. Let's go and see it. We're heading down now through the most ancient tunnel dug by man in Jerusalem almost 4,000 years ago. This is 1,000 years before King David. And you can see over here on the walls the markings of the people who actually carved these tunnels. Did you see how deep that was? We're now at the famous Warren's Shaft, discovered by Charles Warren 150 years ago. Back then, the people who were in control of the Middle East were the Turks. Queen Victoria sent Charles Warren over here to Jerusalem to explore the city, but also to spy. Charles Warren starts to dig in all kinds of places in the city. One day he decides to head down to the spring itself. He heads down to the Gihon spring and finds an opening to a tunnel. He walks inside and starts crawling through it. But bad luck for him, the water starts rising. He tries to find a way out, and suddenly he notices that the flame in his candle is flickering. He realizes that there is some kind of air passageway. He looks to the left, he sees nothing. He looks to the right, he sees nothing. He looks up and sees the shaft. He climbs up and continues on through the entire tunnel. When he comes out of the tunnel, he finds himself outside of the walls of the old city. And he realizes something that nobody realized before him. The ancient city, the place where Jerusalem began, wasn't where the old city is. It's underneath his feet. Because he found the tunnel which led people to the water thousands of years ago. Charles Warren wasn't only an explorer, he was also a biblical scholar. And he's reminded of a very famous story in the book of Samuel, when King David is standing in front of his soldiers, telling them that the only way to capture the city is by finding the secret passageway underground. Did we just find that secret passageway? You know, this wasn't only a way down to the water. This was also a way up for King David's soldiers to conquer the city. You know, Charles Warren was not the only explorer to come to Jerusalem. There were many who came here. Some of them even forgot some of their equipment. You don't believe me? Take a look. Up there, you could see buckets that were left here, and those buckets, they're more than 100 years old. Not bad, huh? We just came out of the tunnel and down into the pool. This is where people came to collect water thousands of years ago. The same water King David drank from. You know, King David had a dream. He wanted to build the first temple, but he never fulfilled that dream. The person who did fulfill it was his son, King Solomon. His story starts here when he was anointed. The story in the Bible tells us that King Solomon came down here as a child with the priest, and the priest poured oil on his head, and the entire nation yelled, "Long live King Solomon." The Bible tells us that this event took place in the Gihon spring, which is just on the other side of that wall. The water in this pool came from the Gihon spring. But as you could see, today, there's no water. The pool's empty. Where did the water go? Well, the story is that about 200 years after King Solomon, there was another king living here in the city. His name was King Hezekiah. King Hezekiah needed to prepare for war against the Assyrian Empire. Now, King Hezekiah did not like the fact that the water is located outside the city. He wanted to bring the water back inside. He decides to carve a new tunnel. When water starts flowing through this new tunnel, this pool empties. And for the past 2,700 years, there has been no water in this pool. Where did the water go? Where is the water flowing today? Let me show you. Come with me. We're heading down to the water. We're heading down to Hezekiah's tunnel. Do you know
that before King Hezekiah, there was another people who tried to protect the water? The Canaanites. They lived here about 4,000 years ago, and they built here a massive fortress that protected the water. Take a look. These stones weigh dozens of tons. Don't ask me how they put them one on top of the other. I have no idea. But like I said before, it's time to head to the water. Let's go.
All right, we've reached the Gihon Spring, right here, underneath my feet. And also, you could see the entrance to the Hezekiah's tunnel. When you come and visit here, you will have an option to walk inside, but just remember one important thing. Bring with you flashlights.
All right, let's head out. So, we're back in the light. You know, 2,700 years ago, when this tunnel was actually dug, two groups of people dug from both sides. The fascinating thing is, they managed to meet each other in the middle. That meeting point is documented in an exciting piece of text from 2,700 years ago known as the Siloam Tablet. And now, we are almost at the Siloam pool. You could see the water. Let's go see the actual pool. We're standing at the entrance of the dry tunnel, which is near the entrance to the wet tunnel. Let's go inside and take a look. Follow me.
You know, the purpose of the wet tunnel was to have water flowing from outside the city back in the city. That way people had what to drink. The tunnel that we're walking through, which is a much more ancient tunnel, had water flowing through it as an irrigation system. The water that would flow here would shoot out of openings into the fields. That way, Jerusalem 3,000 years ago did have agriculture.
That's it. We've arrived at the end of the tour. The meeting point between the two valleys, the Kidron Valley in the east, the Tyropian Valley in the west. We are now at the meeting point, the famous Siloam Pool. The pool we see around us was built here about 2,000 years ago by King Herod. And this throws us to a whole different story, which we will tell you when you come and visit. What we saw today is only a small fragment of what ancient Jerusalem and the city of David has to offer. We hope that in better days, you get a chance to come and visit and hear all the stories we haven't told you yet. We want to wish you good health. Please take care of yourselves, and we hope to see you very soon. All the best.